Bad Larry.
What's up, everyone? I'm your host, Bad Larry, and today we're reviewing The Amazing Spider-Man number 7, dated December but actually released in September of 1963. This issue is written by Stan Lee and drawn by Steve Ditko, and you'll see some of Steve's panels in this issue are a little sus. On the cover, this issue is titled The Vulture Returns and is Spider-Man's first villain to reappear. We saw Spider-Man defeat the Vulture back in issue number 2. What I find interesting is that Stan Lee calls the Vulture, quote, the most dangerous foe of all, end quote, on the cover. So Stan Lee thinks the Vulture is more dangerous than Doctor Doom, Doc Ock, the Lizard? Wow. Tell me down below your opinion on who you think the most dangerous foe is to Spider-Man. On page 1, we see Stan Lee said that back in 1963, the folks wanted to see more of Spider-Man versus the Vulture. So, just like J. Jonah Jameson, Stan Lee does what it takes to sell more comic books. And no respect to the greatness of Steve Ditko, but this drawing of Spider-Man riding the Vulture like a pony, kinda sus. Recapping the battle from The Amazing Spider-Man number 2, Spider-Man figured out the Vulture was using a form of magnetism to fly, developed an anti-magnetic inverter, defeated the Vulture, and had his ass sent to jail. In prison, the Vulture bides his time, becoming a model prisoner. Big mistake. The warden allowed the Vulture to mess with the machines, allowing the Vulture to make another flying device. The old Baldy is crafty. The Vulture uses his crudely developed flying gizmo to soar over the prison walls. Peter Parker learns of the Vulture's escape while at school. He must again feign weakness to keep his cover and go change into his Spider-Man suit. Peter Parker having to constantly shrink down or back down to Flash and in front of all of his classmates really annoys Peter Parker when he knows he could beat all their asses and claim glory using his spider gifts, but he can't. For the safety of Aunt May, I guess. Spider-Man does a quick equipment check before heading out to hunt down the Vulture. This page is lore important as it states that Peter Parker and Aunt May live in Forest Hills. This is a real neighborhood in Queens about 11 or 12 miles due east of New York City. 33 minutes by car nowadays, but swinging over everything and with Spider-Man's super strength, speed, and stamina, it's probably only 5 to 10 minutes to get to the heart of New York City from Spider-Man's house. Spider-Man thinks of using the previous device to stop the Vulture, but the Vulture has new modified wings. The cops in a helicopter spot the Vulture. The Vulture is actually happy to battle the cops. It gives him a chance to try out his new wing design. The Vulture is too quick and nimble in the air. The Helo loses him quickly. The Vulture robs some jewels. Where does he store that gun? Not important. Keister it. The Vulture flies low to avoid police radar. The Vulture flying so low prevents the cops from being able to fire upon him. Clever old coot. Spider-Man finally catches up to the Vulture. The Vulture laughs at Spider-Man, knowing his device won't stop him this time. Spider-Man gets a good picture of the Vulture before setting off his device. The Vulture falls, pretending that the device worked. The Vulture pulls the Uno reverse card and catches Spider-Man off guard and hits Spider-Man with a double uppercut. The Vulture mollywops Spider-Man's ass as he's falling to the ground. Spider-Man tries to shoot his webbing. He misses his shot and lands hard on his right arm. If it was a normal guy, the fall would have killed him. Luckily, Peter Parker isn't a normal dude. The Vulture is super cocky now for besting Spider-Man this round. The public is also shocked, probably seeing Spider-Man getting really whooped for the first time. The arm may not be broken, seriously sprained, but how is Peter Parker, the teenager, going to explain this injury to everyone? Aunt May is about to discover Spider-Man is Peter Parker. But a quick jump and stick to the ceiling keeps Peter Parker's secret. That was a close call. Peter Parker has to visit the local doctor and gets a sling. The doc says it'll take weeks to heal. Spider-Man can't be out of commission for weeks, allowing the Vulture to commit crimes willy-nilly. Peter Parker's classmates are ruthless. Peter Parker wants to smack old Flash upside his curly head, but gotta keep that cool, Peter Parker. Meanwhile, on a farm in Staten Island, the Vulture plans his next big heist, feeling free of fear of Spider-Man. The Vulture plans to rob the Daily Bugle's employees' pay. They didn't have direct deposit back then, and I guess old J. Jonah Jameson paid his employees in cash, which the Vulture plans to steal. Peter Parker is trying to sell his picture of the Vulture to Triple J when Betty Bryan doesn't believe Peter Parker sprained his arm playing volleyball. Peter Parker tells her the truth, but she laughs it off as a joke. Sometimes the truth is harder to believe than a lie. Suddenly, the Vulture busts in. The Vulture demands the payroll from J. Jonah Jameson, but Triple J doesn't want to give it up. It'll destroy Triple J and his business. Like the Vulture cares about any of that. The argument allows Peter Parker to slip away and change into his Spider-Man suit. Spider-Man will have to battle the Vulture one-armed. Spider-Man gets the drop on the Vulture. The Vulture is surprised Spider-Man is even alive. Spider-Man webs the Vulture's gun. The Vulture begins fighting Spider-Man using J. Jonah Jameson as a human shield. The Vulture flies away. Triple J's face down, ass up. What is the deal, Steve? Spider-Man needs to get to the Vulture before he leaves the building. The Vulture is too tough out in the open air. Incidentally, Spider-Man and the Vulture are wreaking havoc on J. Jonah Jameson's office. A little payback for all of that Spider-Man slander. The Vulture is now in the press room, seemingly an advantage for the Vulture. But Spider-Man goes for the rodeo, jumps on the back of the Vulture and rides him rodeo style. No diddy. The Vulture shakes off Spider-Man with his aerial agility. Spider-Man couldn't stop the Vulture from making it outside. The battle ensues. The Vulture has Spider-Man and going to take him super high where Spider-Man will be helpless. The Vulture actually gives Spider-Man a compliment for not whining like a little bitch. He says he almost feels bad for having to drop him. Well, Spider-Man is the top G and webs up the Vulture's wings together, causing both the Vulture and Spider-Man to start falling to their doom. Now the Vulture is whining like a little bitch, begging Spider-Man to spare his life. Spider-Man is riding the Vulture nut to butt, no diddy, and makes a web parachute. Steve, some of these panels are super sus, just saying. Spider-Man hops off, letting the webbed up Vulture parachute down to the awaiting crowd. The round goes to Spider-Man with the one bad arm even. J. Jonah Jameson starts going in on Spider-Man, blaming Spider-Man for wrecking his office, yada yada yada. And Spider-Man webs old J. Jonah Jameson right in his mouth. Good, Triple J had it coming. Spider-Man changes back into a civilian attire and starts to rizz up Betty Bryan, calling her blue eyes and baby, and says, "Rest your head on my shoulder, girl." Looks like Betty Bryan's about to strike a chord, A minor. Comment down below if you think Betty Bryan is out of line for rizzing up Peter Parker knowing she's an adult and he's a high schooler. Anyhow, stay tuned for the next episode featuring the Human Torch and the Living Brain, as this episode is over. Peace, everyone.